but everyone gets a chance to introduce themselves, I think, in the 20 minutes or plus we were trying to fix things. But I think you wanted to say a few words.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Zach Evans. I'm the new Deputy Commissioner for Environment and Planning. I am joining from my prior role and still concurrent role as the county's Chief Economic Development Officer. I've been in county government for about 4 years. Before that, I was a full-time graduate student and graduate employee at UB. And before that, I worked 13 years in radio. So, very glad to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Myla Falali. I'm a policy analyst at the Buffalo Common Council. Before that I worked for the New York State Legislature, the Assembly. I'm happy to be here.
Carolyn Morris Hunt with Buffalo State. Before that I was with the Bridgefield Penny.
I'm Jennifer. I work at the Canterbury Woods Performing Arts Center, and before that I was at the Riviera.
Pat Johnson, my background is accounting. I'm a small CPA apprentice, and I've also done a lot of teaching in Buffalo and online.
So I'm Maria Regis, a reminder. I've been doing the Arts and Cultural Board for about 10 years. I'm a land use planner technically, and with the changes that have been in the department, we're going to be rolling it over to Colette, who has a new position.
Yes. So I'm Colette Ballesteri. My last name just changed actually, and my new position is the Assistant Project Coordinator. So I'll be working with several boards, your board, and then also the Arts and Public Places Board as well.
Gina O'Neill, I was on the Birchfield Penny Arts Center Board for about 12 and a half years, past board chair, chaired almost every committee on that, and now currently Buffalo AKG board member.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Susan Kirkpatrick. I'm a marketing communications consultant. I had been prior to that with the Oshai Foundation for about 5 years, and actually as of the 20th will be changing my role and be leading marketing and communications for the Community Foundation. So,
I'm Mike DeFreitas. I'm a lawyer in private practice. I do corporate law and nonprofit law mainly.
Thank you. So, I don't think we have enough people actually.
How many do we need to have quorum?
I think 7, right, out of 15.
7.
Jason and
We
Patrick
have
are fine.
7.
Yeah, but she can't vote for herself.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, we have a quorum.
Yeah, we can have the meeting.
You just need
You
a majority
can't
of those
vote for
present.
that. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I think this is a meeting for the body. It's up to the president. That would be my sense.
The vote is of those
Yeah.
present. The
Yeah.
quorum is of the whole body.
Right. Okay,
So I don't know.
so who officially has to, can anyone start the call for a vote then? Sorry,
Yeah,
Jason.
anyone can make a motion in the meeting.
Okay, that's what I that's okay.
Explain what we're voting. It's not obvious from there.
Oh, sorry, so Matt was the board chair, his term ended December as board chair. He has one more term as a board member, fortunately. And I think last year, the year before, once we completed the bylaws, we formed a vice chair position to help that pipeline from board member to chair. Because it adds a lot more like the administrative and back end type of stuff. And some examples there for anyone who'd like to take the, or nominate themselves or someone else for vice chair, because Pat was the vice chair for this past year plus. So we are, I guess, calling for a vote for her to be the chair at this time, since Matt has dropped off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can make a motion.
Yes.
Okay, then I make that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Seconded.
Everyone in favor, yes?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it's official.
All
Yay.
Congratulations. Yeah, and then in the vice chair role, in next meeting, or the meeting, if
I think-
anybody wants to take a look, consider it, and then.
Yep. Nominated during the second quarter.
Yeah, so that would probably be the third meeting, but if anyone's interested, you can let me know. Yeah.
For my knowledge, are those the only officers of the board, the chair and vice chair?
Basically,
Okay.
yeah, and then generally staff serves as secretary.
Okay.
I think is what we have in the bylaws. Okay. Shall I talk about this a little bit?
Sure.
So, generally, we haven't needed a logo, we've been using the county seal, but with the feedback letters, we wanted a little more direct feedback from the board itself. So in order to do that, we want to have a separate letterhead. We are not artists ourselves. We did work a little bit with the county graphic artist, but she's one person for the whole county. So she gave us some ideas and we kind of developed these two designs. Does the board have a preference? I guess if you hate it, just say so now so we can go back to the drawing board.
You know, I like design too, but the EA confuses me. I think it should be EC, just, you know, call it EACAB. The Erie Arts Culture, you know, so Erie County. It's a little, there's a lot of these acronyms floating around.
That EACAB is always like
Yeah.
stuck in.
Yeah,
Always
it's
stuck
a
separate.
It's a little, it's a
But it
little
is kind of
wonky.
everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's in common usage now, EACAB.
Honestly, EACAB is still
Yeah.
what people tend to call it. I think it rolls off the tongue a little easier.
So one thought, looking at this, with all the acronyms and alphabet soup that are out there, a lot of people in the community, if they know the organization or the board, will shorten it. Obviously for that, internally we can use it, but for a full logo, I think we might want to use the full spelled out name. But that's just my thought.
Yeah.
You know, and then internal or people who, oh, I'm gonna apply to EACAB or whatever. But I think for a logo, you wanna have the actual, like, full, what is this entity? That's just my 2 cents.
I agree.
I like how the
I
word
agree.
arts pops in
Yeah.
design one.
Okay, so do we need a vote?
I make a motion to approve design number 1.
Second.
Awesome, thank you very much. Hopefully, yeah, I think it looks cute. And moving along, since we were late to start, sorry. So we did send this,
Is there a full vote on that or just a motion in a second?
oh, sorry,
Sorry.
In favor.
you're right. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, motion passed, I think that's,
Lawyer.
we've been much more informal over time, more discussion, and yeah, okay, we're good with it, so officially taking votes is meeting. So we did send this along in December. You have a copy of the full chart, that's the one with all the columns in color. There were, I think the biggest takeaway is that the county executive actually proposed more than we had recommended. How it was distributed is not necessarily consistent with the board's recommendation, but that happens. And then we don't have the adopted budget yet, but it was adopted in early December. I checked last night, or yesterday afternoon. Oh, did I put? Yeah, well, are there any questions or concerns, I guess, with the, at least the proposed budget, which I don't think changed, Zach, do you know if it changed much from the proposed to the adopted?
I don't off the top of my head, and unfortunately, this umbrella of funding, the arts and cultural is one where there may be minor tweaks. So I haven't checked, I've been checking sort of every other day to see if it's online yet.
Yeah, still
But-
proposed only.
Yeah. I can talk, I'll make a note, I'll talk to the budget office as soon as we're done here, because sometimes they might even know if it's not, even if it's not posted yet. I'll get on that and report back.
And I think once we receive the final, we'll update this chart and send it out again, just for additional information. But yeah, I think overall, an increase is good. I mean, usually our increases are 3%, and overall it was 5.2. That's pretty good considering the issues going forward. Yep. Contracts for 2026, I guess before I move on, will probably be going out to the organizations in February, usually. Okay, so you were able to put this information together for it. since we have the cultural plan process, while it is not published yet, there were some things that we were able to do last year to help support that and see where we stand or where the arts and cultural nonprofit applicants stand as far as some of the goals of the plan. And Colette was able to put this information together, which is actually pretty good, I guess. It's not the word I was looking for, but do you want to tell us a little bit more?
Sure. So basically, as we went through the applications that were submitted last year for 2026 funding, those that are familiar with the review process, there's an accessibility section. So each organization self-reports really sort of the things that they're working on as an organization, either within their workforce or services that they provide to their patrons. And largely, a lot of it is ASL interpretation services, verbal language interpretation services, providing closed captions on videos that they provide online, or some might even have them in person, and then providing audio support devices, and then written text to follow along with programming. So I'd say that's the majority of organizations, 42, or maybe not the majority, but 40% of organizations reported that. And then 33% of organizations provide things like quiet spaces and programs that are less stimulating, or certain nights that are geared towards audiences that would have that preference. And then other accessibility efforts are things like affordability for patrons, digital hybrid experiences, and then DEI workforce training opportunities. So we have all the data of what the organizations are putting out there, and then we have sort of information on things that are lacking in a lot of our organizations and things that we might want them to include in their programming or within their organizations moving forward.
I think 93% is higher than I expected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the organizations, before we asked them specifically about it, they didn't think to mention it. And that gave a skewed perspective for me of how much accessibility they were enabling, I guess. So that's just some of the information we were able to work through with the new questions and from the last cohort. I think that was it. Yeah, is there any questions for the 2026 funding? That moves us on to 2027. Yay, always a year ahead. So I think my main concern for this particular slide is to check if everyone is good with Fridays at 9 a.m. Because we have a lot of new members, so I wanted to, or newish members, so I want to make sure that 9 a.m. on Friday still works. Okay. And then if, just reminding everyone to please put it in your calendar or whatever, especially the training and last meeting. The training meeting, we're looking at May 8th. And then the July meeting is the recommendations meeting. Last year we had to shift it back. I know things come up, but if you can, please keep that one.
Is there any remote access for the 30th?
I'm sorry, say again?
Is there any remote access for the 30th?
I don't remember if we're allowed to do remote or not. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm like, do you remember when we read the thing?
You can do remote, but there can't be any voting through remote means.
Okay, so training, I think we can do remote.
Mm-hmm.
The July 10th, we cannot do remote, and you said the 30th. No. Usually, so when we have big changes to the application, we usually do have a vote on it. I'm not sure that we're seeing any big changes, but maybe after we discuss the, okay. But we can do remote at least for one.
Yeah. That's probably the last one you would want to do remote for, the training.
The training.
Yeah.
So it's just the 30th that I'm out of town, so.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll see, we'll try, I guess. I think that should be possible. And then other important dates, you don't have to worry too much about the due dates, which are proposed for April 15th and April 22nd. Any big concerns with that? Sometimes folks mention, there's this other big event or this other thing for, I mean, taxes are due the 15th, but other than that.
not for nonprofits.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
they have
It's May.
till
I
May,
mean,
okay.
its calendar would be May and any other choices.
Right, okay. I don't think there was anything else. And then another important date, reviews are due June 26th according to the schedule. It's kind of follows the same time periods as last year. Just of course updated. Any concerns, changes, proposals?
I'm sorry, when did it say reviews were due?
The 26th of June. Okay. And then, so on to the proposed changes to the application. We didn't have too much from last year. Sometimes there's a lot of changes. One thing I want to remind the board, and we'll do it again at the training, is that an audit committee is not required of an organization unless they have receipts, revenues, don't know the distinction, money over $1 million. So a lot of the organizations are not required to have it. So we'll make that more explicit in the review sheet, so it's not as confusing for the board members. It was proposed that there would be buddy teams for reviews. Everyone's still interested in that? Okay. So we had a question last year about newer, like first-time applicants and what the max recommendation could be for a new organization. Our current scoring that we changed last year has the, there's the like governance portion and then the impact portion and their weight 50-50 if I remember correctly.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, which is a change because we kind of had impact all in one with governance, but now we kind of broke it out to give that a little more spotlight. And then that percentage, that gives us a score that gets in a range, and then we apply a percentage increase to the organization. So if they scored 100%, they get like a, depending on what they had before, or I can't remember exactly. That was complicated. It's always complicated at the end, how to actually distribute the money.
Right.
It feels like it should be simple and it never is. But they got an increase over their last, say 5% or something like that. If they got 100 points or 100% in their score, and if they got 75%, then maybe they got 3% increase or something like that over their prior year budget. Of course, that doesn't work when you have a new applicant. So usually they were, what did we put, like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, something like that?
Yeah, for you.
But it had been mentioned or proposed at some point that maybe we would do 1% of their budget as their maximum instead of 1, 2, or 3,000, because when they come in as a new applicant, they tend to stay on the low end of the awards, even when it can be maybe a larger organization or they have a lot of going on beneficially to the county. So is this something that we want to consider more? Does this kind of, does the percentage make sense? So a level 1 application would be a request of up to $50,000.
So in this case, that's the Olmsted campus.
The Richard student Olmsted?
Yeah,
They're not a level 1 applicant, I believe they're 2 or 3 levels.
So I see new applicants,
Yeah, they are a new applicant.
50,000.
Oh, I'm thinking of the Leonard's the road profit,
Yeah.
not the Richardson.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had some unusual things happen the past couple years. The Unity asked for an increase, which is unusual for them, they were asking for a very small amount. And then Shays applied for the first time ever 2 years ago. And then Richardson applied for the first time ever this past year. So
So is that 15% or
I can't recall.
their
So
up to 50,000 you said? Okay.
for a level 1 applicant. I don't know that they submitted a level 1.
I can't remember which level, but I know there was some gray area with them since.
Same with Shays,
Yeah.
because they're bigger organizations that just haven't been applying before.
Yeah.
So usually it would be the other ones,
Okay.
the little ones.
We still have that first year new applicant threshold we're supposed to consider, because it's really low.
Yeah, and
That's
that's where
This is
yeah, or where we were, I think that was discussed at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Or it was considered think it was mentioned that it was an issue and you and I were talking about it and thinking
Yeah.
how we can maybe start resolving it. I don't think we need to vote on it now, but I guess I would ask if that folks consider it and think about what we might do long-term. I think that 5% was, I think the Richardson was 5%.
That does ring a bell.
I think
Wish I had
50,000.
it in front of
Wait,
me.
Yeah,
Richardson or Roycroft?
Richardson,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
No,
My
it's okay.
mistake.
No, I was making sure, I know.
I mixed them up. Okay.
So is that a combination of the percentage and what they're asking for, that you arrive at a number?
Sort of, so let's say an organization of let's say $100,000 budget applies for a level 1 application, that would be up to $50,000, but we're not gonna give them 50% of their budget, it would be up to no more than 15%.
So that's almost a limit, in other words,
Yeah.
in terms of what they're asking for. Okay.
An organization like the Richardson, I think they supplied, or they provided a level 3 application, and I think 5% was basically that 50, but I might be off. Yeah, maybe I'll send you all one later.
Yeah, just for some context, it was $7,500, so I think the question came up of how would anyone ever really get to something significant,
Yeah.
and that started the.
And even, so we need both limits, we need no more than 20% and no, and not so little that it's not worth the organization putting in the effort to apply. So more data to come on that. So questions that we had about the application itself, do we still need the policies that we've said are good, check all the boxes to be submitted every year? Unfortunately, we still have technological limitations on that one and no good way to track it. But I think with two of us, maybe we can come up to something. So that one needs to remain, I think. B, remove the date of adoption and date of review questions from level 1 and just the attachment. So we have that right now where they have to input that information in the application, and we wondered if we just want to remove that question from level 1 and they don't have to input that info, it should already be in the document itself. Or would you prefer to see it in the application as well? Like have them actually input it?
Yeah, I think having an input to make sure that it's there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes they don't have it on the document.
Right.
And they should.
And it might be a way to tell them, you need to have this on your document, or it needs to be something that
Yeah.
they're thinking of.
And it's a good way to see if it's really old, you wanna make sure you go in and.
Right.
Okay.
Keep
Perfect.
it.
Perfect. This is a simple edit, we'll put it on the application itself that, there's a capacity a bit on the programs table, if they go try to put in hundreds of events, it'll just lag so much that it'll eventually time out before they can save it. So I'll just put that in the actual application. And then this is the bigger one, the controller monitoring report. We wanted to put a more explicit question there, whether they know that they had one done for them, yes or no, and then how they responded to the audit, and if they've made any changes to those concerns.
Does everybody know what those are? Okay. A few years ago, 23, maybe 22,
Yeah.
the county audit department started going through the different organizations that were given grants and subjecting them to an audit. But obviously they couldn't do all of them at once, so it's been a slow-ish rollout, and those do have recommendations. Some of that, I think the first set 2 years ago, maybe right around the holidays, got some publicity because it had to do with the alcohol in the budgets and paying for alcohol out of the county monies. We haven't been doing the letters, right, the review letters, but
Right, the feedback letters.
after the grants are made. So one of the things though that when Matt and I talked, we wanted to go back and make sure that they paid some attention to these audit reports, because if they're being done, the audits are being done, they're being given over to the organizations and they just file them away, that's not really something that we wanna support, we wanna make sure that they're addressing them, so
So these are Erie County.
Erie County audits, and they're on the website.
Okay.
So you can look and see what they've done, and you can see what organizations have been done, and I'm not sure how many are.
Me neither, they
Yeah.
don't tell me, I
But
just go on the
there,
website and find some
you can
more.
look, the names are there, you can see the results, just personal opinion, stepping aside the role, but personal opinion, some of them are a little picky, I would say, from an audit standpoint, because that's part of my background, but still, they're things that the organization should address it, and so that's, I think.
Are there
why
any
we-
consequences if they don't address them?
Yes.
Yeah.
The long and short of that is, the controller can sort of ramp up various escalation, and then just for everyone's awareness, yesterday at the legislature, which meets on Thursdays, the comptroller brought some attention to, I think it was the African American Cultural Center, so that is, gonna be in the public sphere for a little while, and there may be some, for lack of a better term, noise made about that, just so everyone here is obviously aware of that. But yeah, there's sliding enforcement and sort of clawback or punitive measures that the controller and or the legislature could do.
Well, shouldn't we, if they're applying, hold them accountable to those results before we dole out some more money?
We can try
I
that.
mean, what's the
think
point of
that's
the,
idea
know?
that this is coming in, that we at least want them to address it, and make sure they tell them, tell
At
us
least
what
acknowledge
they've
them,
done,
and- right.
what are you doing to change that, and,
So they should be well aware if they've been audited and they've got recommendations,
Yeah.
that's not,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
something sitting away, right?
It's not just like, you got a letter,
Yeah.
respond to it at your convenience. They would know if they got it.
Yeah, and they're pretty detailed, if you, the link is in
It's in the review sheets
information.
and.
Yeah, or if you need it, you can always email me, I can send it to you, but you can, sample one if you want and see what they, what they have to say, but with doing them without expecting anything back or expecting them to acknowledge it, didn't seem to make any sense as we
Right.
went through it. And they've been building up to being, maybe they're a handful the first time, maybe 5 or 6, but now there's probably at least, 25 of them or something, so over time, they're cycling them, and I don't know what the plan is to get each year, how many they want to do, but.
So the question is if you've got one at all, not just from last year, since these have been kind of a rollout
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah, and you can look at this, maybe put the start date, I don't know if it was 20.
Oh, no.
Maybe it was
What?
23.
I think just they cancel and make.
Oh, no.
I'm just gonna roll.
Yeah, I think it's overboarding.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of it's the financial stuff, as you probably would expect there, and some of it is based on not having a clear way to identify what money was used for different purposes. So there are different ways to look at that. One of the other things that at one point was coming up, and I don't know if it's come up again, was a separate bank account for county money, and that's practically not very easy for especially small organizations to do. So I hate to see them go that route, but they should be keeping some track and can show that even if it's first in, first out, and they use the money for different things. And I think that was probably what started some of the audit questions. It wasn't easily identifiable what the funds went towards, so when some of the expenses were looked at, they wanted to caution them not to use them for things.
The contracts were updated after, I think, the first batch, so we
Yeah.
put that they needed to follow New York State Liquor Authority guidance, rules, etc.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't required that they have a separate account, but it was recommended and said that I think need to maintain some way of differentiating the funds. I can't remember the exact wording.
I think that the county's view is usually we push people as much as possible to have separate accounts, but obviously, like you said, the small organizations, that's just too much of a burden. And very strong accounting and documentation of being able to tie every dollar, this was county money that went to this. And I think, that might be where the administration and this board might have a difference of viewpoint with the comptroller, but I think we all recognize, there's no way some of these very small organizations can have multiple bank accounts and maintain them, and that would just be too much for them.
Are these, are our grant funds restricted funds on the financials of the grantee?
It depends, I think, on what they were, if they were, he came in for a specific program, then, and I have to look at the contract, I don't think the contracts are.
No, ours is our general operating support.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and so that would leave, I mean, even like rent, if you.
Right, which makes it
you know,
harder
you
to
go
track
big-
dollars.
A big chunk of it.
General operating, right.
But are there restrictions to the general operating, like no alcohol, no
Yeah.
food, that you're not
You
feeding
have to make
yourself?
sure you're in compliance with the rules.
It
of
says,
Right.
no accounts receivable, no capital, no expenses outside the county. There's like a couple.
Yeah.
Little things.
But that was just what they focused on, it makes a better, news story. You can say something like that.
I think to your point, if they are commingled and not in separate accounts, it comes down to, whatever the proper phrase is, sort of accounting by the remainder, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you say, I got $10,000 from the county, and I can track $10,000 worth of billable expenses to that, then whatever else you have in your account better match up with all those other expenses, like the alcohol, you say this dollar maybe. I know it's tough.
Right, well, no, but if the event costs, $2,500 to mount,
Right.
and you spent $500 on alcohol,
How do you know, right?
how do you know
Yeah.
how to track those dollars? I mean, that's what I always thought was fishy about that kind of finding in an audit.
Yeah, right, that's exactly,
Agreed.
when I was reading them, it was the same thing,
That's
which
right.
dollar, I mean, what if I just flipped it?
Right.
First in, first out versus last in,
Yeah.
on the dollars, so it, yeah.
And I,
So
and I
when you-
know on the staff side, us talking about it, a lot of it does come down to just unnecessarily specific line iteming with your budget, right? Even if at the end of the day, how do you know which dollar went where? If you have something on paper that says, no, this is how, even if the event was whatever blanket costs, this we allocated for this would.
Because internal accounting, you could do that. You could say, we have this
Right.
amount of cash for the county, we're gonna
Exactly.
internally allocate that much to this program or event.
Yeah, and in the applications, you're asking them what they're allocating it for, so
That's right,
if they say rent and salaries, and you look at their rent and salaries lines, and they're more than,
good point.
what
Mhm.
we gave them, that should cover it, so. Anyway, you can read one or two of them and you'll get the idea of, somewhere in the middle, I guess, falls the right, you don't wanna be managing $10 outflows, but by the same token, you wanna make sure they have support for the documentation and making sure that kind of thing. And then you'll see personal credit cards and stuff like that too, which is just bad, controls need to be upped, but.
So we had been kind of including it in our review, but it was not kind of explicit enough, so making it more explicit in the financials page for the applicant. And then we would add on our review sheet, a more explicit line to look at those and then include that in the objective feedback section where, so when you guys hit the yes, no's on the financials and governance items, add the monitoring reports to those so that it comes up in our feedback thing. And then the scoring part, and I guess we don't have to vote on it now. Colette and I can make the changes and then on the 30th have like a draft application with these changes and any edits that you may propose, like wording wise. So if they have not adequately or fully addressed the concerns, should that score, the score in the financials be a 2, which we have as marginal. I think 3 was, I can't remember. It's been quite a bit, but obviously at least one major weakness that they haven't addressed, the monitoring report.
So we'd be saying that the CMR finding is a major weakness,
If they haven't addressed it,
if they haven't addressed it, right?
does that make sense?
But if somebody mentions something about something being picky though, is there a divergence in terms of a really big issue that's found in the CMR and something that's just kind of working around the edges that might not mean you wanna
During the whole
too
thing.
hot hurt if it's not major, I don't know, right? I mean, it's still, there's still some room for leeway in terms of how big or bad something might be.
And what we mean by addressed, like responded, I think responded is in a reasonable fashion is what I would think of as addressed. Explained, or explained.
Okay. So
Yeah.
don't do item B at this time. We'll just simmer on that one some more.
Yeah, and the other thing, if they haven't had one yet, is how will that?
So it was just a yes, no,
Okay,
and we wouldn't include it in their scoring.
okay.
Okay. Any other, I think that was it for, yeah. Any other questions or concerns for 2027? Any ideas you've had in the past however many months since we last had to review and talk about them in detail? Anything you're like, oh, maybe
So these
that would be
applicants aren't required to attend the kickoff?
correct.
They're not required?
Correct.
Shouldn't they be required to have a representative?
I think a lot of them are returning applicants.
But you don't get lax. I mean,
Yeah,
it's county money.
this is for the, when they,
The applicant.
Just the
briefing
kickoff,
for
the training kind of thing, the background on all the details. I
Sorry.
agree with
You
that.
know, yeah, I mean, this is taxpayer money.
And be conscious of the burden on time and effort of small nonprofits and their staffs.
That's true. Maybe once every 3 years or, not every year, but within some time
If you
period.
want the money, show up.
It's a good rate of return, an hour at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a couple of them held generally, isn't there? Wasn't there 2 last year?
Yeah, usually there's 2. We were discussing yesterday what might make more sense because we've tried a couple different things like urban and rural areas versus big and small organizations or new or old or returning organizations. So we've tried a couple different things. I'm not sure that any one has been more successful than the other.
Yeah.
But you were thinking maybe new and returning.
That makes, I would think, the most sense, just varying the different questions that might come along or the different issues between a returning applicant versus a new applicant. The recordings are also uploaded online. I don't know what kind of traffic those get, but they're always a resource for applicants too.
Yeah, that possibility that
Mm-hmm.
one or the other, you at least have to watch the recording.
Yeah.
If you're thinking,
And that
You can't
addresses the
attend.
time and issue that you
yeah,
mentioned.
then they have some flexibility and then how to make sure they did it, I guess that's,
Right.
the honor system or whatever if you want. But check a box that you either attended the meeting or went through the recording, just so then the excuse if I didn't understand or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Goes away.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. I don't know how we could track it, but yeah.
Oh, hopefully, hopefully they would be honest about that.
Yeah, I would hope so too.
Well, maybe it's a non-issue, it's just,
Yeah, or something to
Yeah.
take into consideration, but not effectively put in the scoring, but see where you might want the data to decide how to handle it in the future.
I'd say, at least for last year, the questions that I received from applicants weren't necessarily pertaining to like how to access the application or things that we go over in the briefing. They're more specific to their organization, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you've received anything other.
I mean, I often got questions about how to access the
How to
application,
access
so
the application.
improvement, yes.
Good.
We'll put that there, we'll think about it, see how maybe we can.
put a pin in it, yeah, I mean, if it's not an issue, let's not create one, but.
I think the online version, I mean, that's a good compromise to say either attend or watch it.
Mhm.
And even if it's the honor system, I
Yeah.
think most grantees want to make sure they're pleasing the funder in any way. So I think you can count that they will at least do their best to try to click in or show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could even like potentially put it as a line in the application, like in the beginning of like, specifically, this is the applicant briefing video if you need assistance or anything.
Yeah, and it also opens it up to more people in the organization, because usually if they're going to a meeting, it's just they assign somebody or somebody, one
Right.
person goes, so if others are involved in it, it might be nice to make it more prominent
Yeah,
that it's available.
Any other thoughts, I guess, for changes you'd like to see from 2026 to 2027 process application review sheet. That's good. And I think this was just the end, right?
So,
And it's 9, oh, it's 1, never mind. I think, we have to do a motion to close the meeting officially. Second. Anyone second? Yeah.